So we were having an overboost condition that was a hard ignition cut at 5,000 RPM. Ended up being our Wastegate Actuator calibration. If you are having an issue similar to that, this video might be for you. All right, so what we were experiencing was an ignition cut or a boost cut, or it was definitely having to do with ignition for sure. At 5,000 RPM, you'd be going all the way, wide open throttle, all the way into boost, and at 5,000 RPM, it just, just hard stops right there, doesn't let you go any further. And we were getting a P0234 code for an overboost condition. Now, if, this is our process of how we figured out how to fix it. I scoured the internet to find out what we needed to do to fix this, because we honestly really weren't sure. There wasn't a ton of information out there to grasp onto and learn about this. So we wanted to make this video to help those of you that might be experiencing the same thing. If you are not experiencing that same thing, this video might just be a little bit boring and not interesting for you. And if it is, that's totally fine. If it is interesting to you, if it does help you with the same problem, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. That will tell YouTube that, hey, people that are searching for this solution or this problem will definitely find a good answer on this video. So make sure you hit those buttons. But yeah, I couldn't find a whole lot of info. So this is how we went about fixing it. The idea came about when Alan, our tuner, he actually had a customer that was experiencing the same thing. He had a 27.1 turbo that he had just installed, and he was getting an ignition cut at 5,000 RPM. And Alan suggested that he recalibrated the Wastegate, and it fixed the issue. However, we didn't actually tell him how to recalibrate the Wastegate. He just did that on his own through whatever means. I think maybe he took it to a shop. I really don't know. But when we experienced the issue, Alan had that same idea, like, hey, let's try to recalibrate the Wastegate. And when we went searching for the answer, I think we probably stumbled upon a lot of the same resources that you might stumble upon if you're trying to figure out this issue. By the way, another common issue for the Wastegate calibration issue is if you get P003A or P0046, I think are the two codes. And those have to do with like a Wastegate range issue or a Wastegate out of calibration issue, where the ECU is not communicating properly with the Wastegate, and what the Wastegate wants to do is not, or what the ECU wants to do with the Wastegate is not happening. So it throws all sorts of check engine lights on the dash. So it's like a Christmas tree. It's not just a check engine light. It's saying everything's off, you got to fix this to move on. What I ended up discovering is, like, Full Race has a how-to on their website, which is very well laid out, and it's very specific, very technical, and looks very helpful. And it's for a Type R. I also found a video on YouTube that basically explained like the exact same thing that Full Race was explaining in their fix tutorial. However, my experience was not even close to what they were describing. And I've spent hours on this. So anyway, I kind of just did a bunch of trial and error things that allowed me to kind of understand what the car was trying to do, what the Wastegate was trying to do, how to read what I was changing and how it affected how the ECU was reading it. And I'm kind of just going to tell you my method that I stumbled upon that fixed our issue, that allowed me to just take it out for a drive as soon as it was figured out, and boost all the way through high RPM, all the way through redline in third and fourth gear and high load gears. So just fine. What we are trying to do is recalibrate the Wastegate. That's the #1 goal here, because that's going to fix probably all three of the issues that I described earlier. So if you come down here to where the turbo Wastegate is located, obviously it's electronic. So you're looking at the electronic Wastegate right here. This is the plug for that Wastegate. Here's the entire Wastegate arm assembly, and it's attached to the kind of swing arm here that controls the Wastegate door, the flapper door on the inside of the turbo. So as this moves back and forth, the wastegate door on the inside of the turbo opens, opens up and closes. So what we're essentially trying to do is just recalibrate this, get this thing back to a baseline setting that the ECU can recognize, like, hey, I'm in my baseline setting successfully. We can continue to drive now. So the first thing you should try if your wastegate is out of calibration, if you're experiencing one of those three codes, is go inside the car, turn the car on, engine off. So ignition on, engine off. Come out of the car, come over here. Make sure before you start, make sure this plastic piece is off. You'll need to take this off to access this plug. Take that off, unplug the wastegate, right? So just unplug it just like that. Once you do that, it'll take all power away from the actuator itself. Take this swing arm, the end of this swing arm, obviously make sure it's not too hot. If your car's been running, don't do this with your bare hands. Pull this all the way towards you. I'm putting a lot of pressure on it right now. Ours is currently closed, so there's not a lot of pressure. Actually, you can see, you can move it just like that. So just go all the way closed. You will be able to close it with the power off of it. Plug it back in. The power does not it doesn't repower the actuator once you've unplugged it with the ignition on. Go back to the car and take the power off, like ignition off, turn everything off. Then turn the car back on and start it up. At that point, you'll still have codes. It'll still have those codes in memory because the car technically hasn't reinitialized from like what it knew was wrong before. So go drive, and it takes probably like a quarter mile or an eighth of a mile for it to go, okay, yeah, we're good now. Like all of our settings, the sweep of the wastegate are in line with what it's supposed to be, and it might be totally okay. That would be like best case scenario if your wastegate was not calibrated correctly. So that's like try number one, right? That's the easiest way. The second way involves more kind of mechanical work. Simple, but kind of tedious. Now what we're gonna do is take a 10mm wrench, as small as you can, or as short as you can, because it's kind of a tight area. Come in here to where the wastegate arm is. You'll notice that ours right here is probably a little bit different looking than yours right now. And it's because this little kind of bent attachment here that attaches this blue straight arm to the wastegate actuator rod itself is bent so that you can access this nut right here. This is over on the top from the factory. In order to have full range access to it and a lot easier access, you need to flip this around. So what you need to do is take this cotter pin out of here, crack loose this 10mm nut right here. Now you'll have to take your wrench and kind of dip it all the way down in the engine bay, hold your hand down here and get on it from underneath like this. Now this is really hard to make adjustments from down here, but all you need to do is get on it like this and then just crack it loose. Once you crack it loose, you can then just take your finger and move it back and forth really, really easily. Take the nut off. Be very careful not to drop it into the engine bay. Hold your hand underneath here as best as you can to try to catch that thing. Take it off, and then this whole assembly will come off. This arm right here will come off. Flip it around, put the cotter pin back on, put the 10mm nut back on, and it's going to perform the same function. We've already ran this like this, and there's no issue with flipping it around. It just creates easier access. So that's probably like the first thing you want to do. If you don't do that, you're going to be just like, trying to take a wrench and make tiny little movements, and it's going to be hard to get to that nut. So that's maybe my first suggestion. One of the reasons why I had to go through this process is because through trial and error, I had moved the actuator arm all the way into the rod and all the way out and monitored the voltage by back probing this connector right here. Some of the instructions out there, including Full Race's instructions, will tell you to back probe the third and the fourth wire, which on this 2017 SI is the middle gray wire, which is you can use the ground on, and then you can use your red probe on this green and mostly yellow and green stripe wire, positions 3 and 4, to monitor the voltage. Now this is why That wasn't working for me, which led me down this path of all this trial and error, because when I monitored voltage all the way out and all the way in, the only differences, the only voltages that I observed was anywhere from 3.96 volts all the way to 4.18 volts. Well, some of these guides out here, including full races, say it needs to be with the key on, ignition, or with the ignition on, engine off, it needs to be at 1.26 to 1.43 volts. That's not what I was getting, like not even close. Maybe I was doing something wrong. Honestly, I'm not a diag guy. I'm not like a certified mechanic. I've never done that for a living, worked on other people's cars. So this is not a process that I go through all the time. I'm like a lot of you guys watching this video. I kind of troubleshoot stuff myself with a lot of various resources out there. So I was just going through resources the best that I could, and I just was not seeing the same voltage range, like not even close. And I would even try to adjust it with the car on. I would turn the car off, adjust it, turn the car back on, and I would see the same voltage readings way off. I was just super confused and honestly really frustrated, probably like some of you guys might have gotten. So anyway, the one thing to remember right here is that what I ended up finding out is a lot of these turbos come shipped with about 2 to 3 threads showing. You'll see that actually this nut is on the tip of the actuator rod. So that is an acceptable place for the nut to be, what I've found out, at least for our car. If it's 2 to 3 millimeters in on the actuator rod, that's probably an acceptable range too. What we ended up finding out is that this nut can be in a handful of places, although a small range. It can be within a small range. And the ECU recalibrates the wastegate on its own when you tell it to need a new calibration by unplugging this. So this doesn't need to be in an exact spot, but it does need to, like if you are trying to fine tune while the car is on where this wastegate needs to sit, very, very tiny movements back and forth will change the voltage readings. And they'll change the length if you're monitoring the length using Hondata, which we'll get into later. Very, very minute movements of this nut will change that for you. So that's when this is helpful, is when you are already really, really close to that range and you need to get it dialed in and then recalibrate again. But anyway, that's just kind of like an explanation of all the stuff that I've kind of stumbled upon and figured out through this process. So the next part that I'm going to go through with you is using Hondata. I ended up using Hondata to verify if I had it fixed or not. And I kind of stumbled upon this information. When the nut is tightened down and everything is secure and fastened, when you recalibrate, the ECU will send the measurement on the wastegate sensor to 8.00 millimeters. That is where it wants to be when you first start up the car, and it recalibrates itself and sends it to the correct position. It needs to be at 8.00 millimeters. How I figured this out is I made all these adjustments, and it just happened to like be in an acceptable place for it to be able to reach that 8 millimeters successfully and also sweep the whole wastegate, which is kind of what it does like on startup. It set it to 8.00 millimeters. I had seen anywhere from like 5.24 millimeters to 6 something or another millimeters. And I finally just like set it in a place where I knew that it came from the factory pretty close, and it went straight to 8.00 millimeters. I knew that I didn't nail that setting just coincidentally. I knew I was within an acceptable range, and it picked that location. So 8.00 millimeters is what you're looking for. On that full race diagram, or on that full race instruction sheet, they reference a millimeter range on the wastegate and the wastegate command, like actual and command. Well, on the SI, on ours, I didn't see in the sensor menu on the Hondata Flash Pro, I did not see a measurement for the wastegate command. I saw like a duty cycle. It said like 5% or something, or 8%. I can't remember. So you couldn't like adjust it to be within range of another measurement, of the commanded measurement. You couldn't do that on ours because it showed 2 different ways. And maybe that's a setting that I just don't understand how to use in the Hondata Flash Pro. I don't know. But anyway, 8.00 millimeters is what you're searching for. So we're going to show you in Hondata now what you need to see when you recalibrate the wastegate and it's successful, what you need to see in there when you start it up the next time. I have my laptop out here. I'm connected to the Hondata Flash Pro. I'm connected to OBD2, all that stuff. So what you're going to find is that if it's calibrated correctly and you've pulled the plug out, you've kind of done that reset procedure I explained before, you should see a wastegate value. It's named WG in your sensors window of 8.00 millimeters. Now, the reason why I point this out is because if you do the recalibration procedure and that doesn't say 8.00, that means that your adjustment nut is so far off that it can't even reach that point. So what you need to do is you need to adjust it to a point where it can reach that 8.00 millimeters. If you've already reached that point, whenever you've touched that nut, just make sure that that thing is on there super, super tight. It just needs to be snug pretty well, because any tiny vibrations that move the nut off, first of all, I mean, if it's enough vibration to move the nut off, it's eventually going to fall off. But regardless, besides that, even 0.1 millimeters is going to throw off everything, and it's going to throw a Christmas tree light setup in your dash like it did to me, and it'll start beeping at you, and it won't stop beeping at you until you fix it. So this is just kind of a verification that you're within an acceptable range. You can adjust it from here, and you can see the changes while the car is running or while the car is on without running. You should be able to see the changes that you make through the adjustment nut in here. It'll be like, it'll fluctuate like 0.03 millimeters in here. It's very, very sensitive. So you want it to be 8.00 millimeters upon recalibration without touching anything. It needs to be at 8.00. And that should be the fix for the issues. However you go about clearing the codes, whether it's clearing them through Hondata or whatever tuning software you're using, or driving down the road and making sure that the car can recalibrate itself and recognize that everything is okay. You can do either one of those things. Just know that if it's off and you cleared the codes are going to come back almost immediately if you go drive. So anyway, that's about it. Honestly, it took me a lot of work to get to this point, a lot of just observation, trial and error, setting the wastegate up completely off to monitor what it was doing. And I'm not a tuner, actually. Alan is our tuner. He's not here, which is why I kind of had to do this. This is my laptop. I had to download Hondata and do this on my computer, which I'm not used to. I'm not familiar with tuning on Hondata. So I kind of just had to pull up the bare minimum to figure out, where the wastegate was at. And that's what I did here. So some of you guys might even know Hondata a lot better than me, but this is the minimum that you need to be able to see in order for you to fix this. So okay, we are all done. Hopefully our 6 to 8 hours worth of work figuring all this out and being frustrated helps you do it in a much shorter amount of time. If you got value out of this video, if this video helped you, even if it didn't fix an issue that you might have had, but you just learned something, and especially if it fixed your issue, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel from this video, because it'll tell YouTube to tell other people that are searching for fixes to this same issue that this video might be valuable. Put in the comments any questions that you have, any comments. If there's something else about doing this that makes it even easier, or anything else that you know about this that I might not, please put them in the comments. We'd be happy to know that and share that with other people as well. Obviously, we can't diagnose your car from YouTube comments, but we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have the best that we can. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have fun out there with your 10th gen. We'll see you on the next video.